for those who don't know me, my name is Joseline Nicholas. I'm a local real estate agent and I work in this area, Kitchener-Waterloo, Guelph. I'm an investor as well, which is why I've been having these webinars to educate investors and to educate homeowners who would like to get into the investment world. So if that is you today, you're here, maybe you own a property that has plenty of space that you can do an ADU. That's what we're here for. We're here to educate and also to help people who are looking to advance their real estate investment career. Now, I think there's a question, but I will get to it. Sorry about that, I got interrupted. Anyways, so now I work with Farhaan all the time. We've been working together for the last maybe 4 to 5 years. And I've seen you do interesting deals. I've seen you help our clients embark on this journey. So I'm not even going to spend time introducing you because I like it when you introduce yourself. So I'll just give you the floor. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. My name is Farhaan Mahmood. I'm a local mortgage broker here in Guelph. And it's absolutely a pleasure to do this with Joseline. First, upfront disclosure, I'm not a contractor. This is not about going into a lot of depth about ADUs. This is to give some basic understanding of what ADUs are, how they can generate further cash flow for you, and how they can help you out. That being said, I've been heavily involved in investments as well as in construction for the last 10 years or so, generally in Guelph, Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge, and in surrounding areas. So I do have some experience doing this. We have started building some ADUs as well as we have some in the planning stage at the moment. So we have been through the process of permitting them, putting the foundations, putting the framing up, the roof up, and actually going to the occupancy permit. So we are not talking here just on theory. We have done few of these as of right now, and that's what would be the goal is to if any of our clients have question about them or see if this is something which is feasible for them, we can answer those questions and go over them. We also want to correct the language around it because ADUs are referred to as garden homes, garden suites, backyard homes, accessory dwellings, accessory residential dwelling units. So there's so many different names used for it that it confuses a lot of people. So one of the goal which I have with this webinar is I want to correct some of those misconceptions and make sure that when we are talking about it, we are talking about the same accessory dwelling unit, same house in the backyard. So I'll leave it there. I'll give it back to you, Joseline. You had a chance to visit one of the house we are creating. Explain me what was your first opinion on it. What was your first impression? How you felt about it?
Well, like before I guess I was there, I thought it would be small. It would, because when you talk about 700 square foot home, you think it's small, it's tiny. But actually my first impression being there was that it's doable and it felt so much larger. I know the square footage is not as large, but when you're in there, because of the way you guys have designed it, it feels so much bigger. Another thing too, because of the way the lot is, it doesn't feel like you're living next to somebody else. It feels like the way you have a regular neighbor where there's like a little bit of green space in between the two homes, and you have privacy as well. So I must say that you guys have done a good job designing it, and it felt like another detached home. Yeah.
I'm glad you felt that way because when originally we started the project, that was my understanding too, that this would be a very small, tiny unit similar to how basement apartments are. But when we actually start putting shovel to the ground and we start constructing it, turned out to be nice enough that me and my wife are thinking of living in one of these. And it's good enough for a family of 3 or 4, a young family. They can easily live in it. It's not something which is out of question that you cannot live in it. So definitely it has a lot of benefits. And that's one of the reasons we want to go into one of the biggest challenge which we have seen in the last couple of years as interest rates have skyrocketed. Everything from cost of groceries to gasoline to insurance, everything has gotten expensive, and people are having difficult time affording their mortgages. They are having difficult time cash flowing their rental properties. So this has come in as a blessing in the skies, where for the same property you have the ability to generate higher income, or if you have a home where you're living in, you could create an additional suite in the backyard where your parents can live, your parents can live, a family member can stay, or you can rent it out to generate some income to cash flow the hefty mortgage payments at the moment. What do you think, Jocelyn? Who do you see as the biggest users of these ADUs?
To be honest with you, I think what you just said is very true. We're seeing a lot of clients who have money, they want to invest it somewhere, but the cash flow, the numbers aren't working. And that is the nature of real estate investing right now. If you buy any property, let's say around $1 million, or even, from 800 to 1 million, usually we used to be able to cash flow $1,000, but that cash flow has gone away. So I see this being good for investors. I also see it being good for multi-generational living. As I was saying, like some people have homes that don't allow an accessory apartment. Maybe it's semi-detached, maybe you don't have that, separate entrance. And I see this being really good for those people who are looking to live with their families and have a separate unit with their family.
You're absolutely right. And
Yeah.
the biggest chunk I'm seeing at the moment is people with young families, right? Like families like mine and yours, Jocelyn.
Yeah.
I've been getting a lot of calls from those people. They want to live close to their parents so they can get some help with babysitting. And
Yeah.
yet, on the same time, they want a bit of distance from them. And these units give you that perfect balance where ideally you could put your parents in the backyard, so you do
Absolutely.
still have your full privacy, and yet on the same times, the kids can just open up the patio door and run to the grandparents without worrying about going on the street or anything like that. And
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to cost, they add a lot of value to your property for little money you're spending to create them. Next thing I want to quickly go over is a bit of the language around them. A lot of people refer to ADUs as garden suites. So I want to explain the difference between garden suites versus accessory dwelling units. Garden suites, generally they are referred to as more of temporary structures, and they've been there forever, right? Suites were created that, if you have one of your parents who are sick, you need to place them in a garden suite for the next few years while you can take care of them. Or if you have a housekeeper, you need to put them in the backyard. So you create a garden suite to take care of them temporarily. Generally, the usage for them was 5 to 10 years. And after 5 to 10 years, they were no longer livable. You converted them into either workshop, a shed, or a secondary garage, but they were no longer usable. What ADUs are, they are more of a long-term solution. So they have economical life, same as a home. They have foundation, is same as a home. They have roof, exactly same as a home. So it is a second home on the property, not just a garden suite, which has to be dismantled or reused after 5 to 10 years. And that's where a lot of time the confusion comes in for people is they think of these structures as temporary structures. They aren't. They are a long-term viable solution to especially the housing crisis we are having. Another thing which I learned a lot, I have heard a lot from my clients is they have a semi-detached home and they think this could not be done on a semi-detached home, but it can absolutely be done. Like the example which Jocelyn, the house she was at, that is a semi-detached dwelling, and you
Yeah.
have the ability to put this unit in the backyard there. Um, so definitely that can be accommodated as well, depending on where your property is located and so on and so forth. Justin, going back to quickly your issue about cash flow. At the moment, with the current rates and everything going on, you've been running through it. If someone is buying a property, which is a single family unit, how much of a negative cash flow they are experiencing at the moment in Guelph and surrounding area?
Right now, you're looking at approximately 2,000, because on average right now, if you buy a home for, let's say, 800, your mortgage payment is going to be somewhere around 5,000, and the rent can only be around 3,000. So depending on the location and all those other factors, you're definitely putting in around 2,000 every month.
That sounds reasonable. And that's where these units come in quite handy. So same property which you have bought in for 800,000, let's say if you were to add a ADU in the backyard, and your cost, let's say on the higher end, you go in and spend about $200,000 doing that. For $1 million of a property, you have the ability to add another $2,500 easily in rent, which does make your cash flow positive. So it becomes a reasonable solution in this case. Another thing which we want to cover is the size of the ADU, right? One of the misconception which is there, especially in people who are coming in from Toronto and so on, they think that the ADUs will be very, very tiny in terms of size. And that's generally the first conception. But in Guelph, you're allowed to build up to 861 square feet, 80 square meter, which is a very, very nice size property to live in. You can have 2 bedroom plus 10 in them. And depending on your HVAC needs, you could have either a heat pump or a full furnace, whatever you prefer. Jocelyn, going back to you, one of the things which is happening a lot recently is talk about multi-generation homes. And I know you have a lot of experience working with multiple families about it. What are some of the challenges people experience in real estate with multi-generation homes?
You know what? I think maybe one of the concerns that I've seen speaking to families who are living with family, I guess one of them is privacy. And I'm thinking that, having that ADU definitely brings in a little bit of privacy, especially, if the lot is larger. If you have, half acre plus, then you're able to have two homes that are actually a little bit far from each other. So you can have the privacy that you need. Another thing that I've seen actually, which is why I've even considered it for my own family, is that usually with multi-generational living, the other unit is in the basement. So if you have elderly parents who can't do stairs, then I see ADUs as a good option because you can build another tiny bungalow on the lot and you eliminate that accessibility issue that most people are facing.
Yeah. And to add on, one of the things which I have seen, including my own mother, they don't want to share kitchen with their daughter-in-law. It's always issue of contention. So with especially ADUs, the parents, they have the ability to have a suite of their own, completely equipped with their separate kitchen, their own appliances, everything separate. And in a lot of cases recently, I have seen where kids have lost one of their parents. One parent can much more comfortably live if they have their own full apartment to stay in. And that's where ADUs become a very viable options. I do want to go over some of the scenarios where ADUs are not permitted in Guelph. So as of right now, as I mentioned, the laws are changing very quickly on this. There will be more amendments to done on it shortly. So if you do have a property which is a townhouse, ADUs, as of my knowledge, are not allowed on that. So it's on detached or semi-detached homes. There is really three versions of ADUs, what we are looking at in Guelph. First one is for a very normal, run-the-down, middle, like an interior property, not a corner lot, an interior lot. You can build an ADU on that. The biggest struggle which a lot of people have on interior lots is the fact of access to the backyard. So there are setbacks requirements for people to get to the backyard, as well as maximum in Guelph at the moment, 30% of the backyard could be converted to an ADU. So if you have a tiny backyard, your ability of building an ADU is limited. As I mentioned, there are changes coming in, but as of right now, that's where we are at. The other type of property where ADUs are going on is corner lots, right? Because you have the ability to have access from two different streets, and they work out to be really well, especially in a scenario when one unit can have access from one side of the street and the other unit can have access from the other side of the street. And finally, the properties which have detached structures to it. So if there is a double car garage, which are detached double car garage, you could put an accessory dwelling unit on top of the double car garage. These are especially popular in older homes because as the older homes generally did have detached structures where you do have the ability to put in ADU on top of the garage. Jocelyn, one of the ones which you visited recently was the one which was on a corner lot, right? Um, what benefits you saw of corner lots to do an ADU?
I think the one thing that stood out to me is the fact that you have two driveways. So it literally, like if you look at the city of Hamilton, they have 20-foot lots. It looked like one of those homes in Hamilton where you have this home that's a corner lot, it's a 20-foot lot. It really, for me, I think that definitely changed the game. The fact that you don't have to share the driveway, the fact that you have additional parking, right? So I definitely like that. The fact that you have separate homes with separate parking spaces.
Yeah. And it makes it feel like a separate home its own, especially with the corner lot where it does not look like something which is attached to the other property. It's completely separate. So one of the benefit of corner lot is to have that extra space which is available to you. But even with interior lots, couple of the houses which we are involved in, as long as you have enough setbacks to get to the backyard, you have the ability to put in a very, very beautiful unit in the backyard to generate extra income. One more correction I want to make. If you have one of those properties where your property is actually in the back of the lot, you do have the ability to put them in your front yard as well, as long as the size of the front yard or maximum of 30% of the front yard is utilized. So I did have a client of mine who did reach out to me because they wanted to do that, but their house was situated all the way to the back of the lot. You could do it on the front as well. Make sense, Jocelyn? Do you have any questions about it?
No, absolutely. I think that makes sense. And also, I guess that for the city of Toronto, where they have a lot of laneways, then I guess you could also do it in the back and access through the laneway.
Absolutely. We are one of the clients I have, he's working on one in Kitchener, and the house has a laneway in the backyard that's going to have access to the dwelling unit in the backyard. So absolutely, those options are available. Next segue I want to go into a bit of construction of it, because a lot of time people are very fascinated about how this is actually going to be done to their property, what the process is going to look like, how the construction is actually going to happen. So generally with ADUs, your water connection, your sewer connection is connected to your home. So the lines get dug up and the water line and sewer lines are connected to your property, the main property. With the electrical connection, generally the electrical meter comes where your electrical meter is. They add in a secondary meter, and from there the connection goes to the ADUs, which is dug up again. It goes underground. With gas, you can choose to have a separate gas connection if you wish to, or you can again take it off from your existing gas line, which is coming into your home. One of the popular options which we have used with our ADUs is we have gone towards heat pump, just because it's a lot more efficient compared to standard furnaces, and they take a lot less space. So again, these units are on the walls. Instead of having a large utilities room, we are able to put the HRVs right in coat closet or in laundry area and not have a large utility room. This way we can use that space to maximum to our advantage. Again, it depends on your property and what your needs are. And that's where, if you do need help, we do have contractors who specialize in this area. So we can definitely refer you to one of those contractors. We also have BCIN designers who can draw out the whole design for you if you need assistance with that, and guide you through if this is something you are looking for. Now, next, obviously, foundation and the footings of the property is fairly confusing topic about it. So you could, as of right now, GWAF do not allow full basements in the ATUs. You could have crawling space in the basement, or to save cost, you can do slab on grade foundations. You still need to create footings around the footprint of the property, and then you can do slab on grade and start your framing right on top of it, which makes it fairly simple, straightforward process to go through it. For one of the ones we have done most recently, our cost for digging, concrete, pouring, forming was approximately $25,000 to do that, which is compared to a full home, it's again a huge saving if you're doing concrete slab on grade versus you're doing full basements there. We did add a lot of insulation underneath the grade as well on top of the grade to make the property as comfortable as possible, just so it does not feel cold in winter. In terms of framing, it's very much a standard framing for a home done with 2x6s, and for exterior, you can use either same stuff that we use for normal homes. Vinyl siding, you can have stone, or you could have brick if you like. Again, all those things add cost, whichever direction you want to go in, and it change overall efficiency of your property as well. There is limitations on windows and doors, something we need to keep in mind on what we are doing and how we are placing those. There is certain amount of sunlight which need to come into the home, and that's one thing we kind of specialize in, where the few designers which we work with, I love big windows. I feel like it changes the whole aura of the property. The one which you visited, Joseline, and again, we'll be posting the pictures of that property with it. There were some really big windows in it. What did it feel like from living point of view?
You know, I think that I really like that, the fact that you have big windows, because being in the space, it felt like, you know, kind of like semi-outdoor living, which is a lot of people like that. A lot of people would have to have, you know, natural light. You know, it's really good. And the ceiling height too, right? So the combination of those large windows and the ceiling height made such a difference.
You're right. Yeah. And then also the height of the property. So GWAF allows you to go about 5 meters in terms of the height of the ADUs. It's about 18 feet. That's a lot of height you can use in the property for your pleasure, right? So instead of doing standard 7.5 or 8 feet height, you could go higher. Yes, it costs a little bit more money, but you could frame it at 10 feet or 9.5 feet, whatever you prefer, to make the space more open and usable. And that's another one of the trick which we utilized is we created a lot of storage in this unit which we are creating just by increasing the height a little bit. It allowed us in the washrooms and in the coat closets and so on. We kept the standard height, and the height above it, we utilized it for storage. And that does, like, those small tricks makes huge difference in terms of how your property comes out. So I wanted to talk a little bit about cost and financing of these ADUs. So we have better understanding of what it is looking for, what the return on investment is for the investor clients of ours, as well as for homeowner, what options they have available for financing these units, because most of the people do not have the kind of money available in cash to build these out of pocket. So we do want to discuss some options and go through them accordingly.
Absolutely, let's do that.
So, quiz for you, Joseline. What do you think an ADU, a normal standard ADU cost?
I'm going to say anywhere between 150 to 200.
You're right on the money. That's generally where, so a couple of them which we have completed, the
Yeah.
cost has been approximately 150,000. One was around 140 something, one was around 160 something. So it averaged out around 150, but it also depends on your preferences and your finishes and what you want, how fancy do you want. Now, these are the units which I like. I'm sure if these were the unit what Jocelyn liked, the cost would be over $200,000 because she always makes everything looks extra, extra beautiful, and she has the skill
Fancy.
to do that. So roughly, I want to go over cost divided into different segments of it. So generally, the permitting process is the first step you go in, where you hire a designer who comes in, measures everything on your lot, makes drawings for you, and submit the package to the city. You do have the ability to do it by yourself, but especially for your first unit, I would highly, highly recommend to hire a designer so they can do it properly and make sure you have a much higher chance of getting an approval. That cost is about $5,000 for all the drawings and all the work which need to be done. So soft cost for an ADU at the moment, we are looking at approximately $5,000. The next big cost which comes in is servicing, right? Now, if you are in an older property where there might not be enough, the water line does not have enough pressure, you might need to upgrade the water line or sewer line. Generally, that's not the case, but we have experienced that in some of our properties, we had to do that. That again, the BCIN designer who is going to come in to assist you with this process, they can guide you through it. Generally, the utilities do get connected to the main home, but you need to dig about 4 to 6 feet, depending on the grading of your property to do it. And that cost is generally somewhere between $10,000 to $20,000, depending on how complicated it is. The next cost which comes in is obviously digging, pouring of concrete, forming, and underground plumbing. That generally ranges about 25,000 to 35,000, depending on what you want and how quickly you want it. It varies depending on the project and where your property is located, because one of the biggest cost with concrete which comes in is the transportation of it. So if your unit is all the way into the back, the cost of taking concrete there will be a lot higher than being right next to the property where easily one of the concrete pump truck can pump it over there. So that again, the designer, whoever is designing your property, would be able to give you a really good idea of what you're looking at approximate concrete cost. Then it is lumber, framing, roof trusses, and the roof. For us, that cost ranged between $20,000 to $40,000, depending on how big of a size we were doing. And then after that, it was doors, windows, door, windows, exterior finishes, soffit, roof, gutters, and that was about $10,000 what we experienced on the most recent project we were doing. Finally, it was the cost to do the interior finishes from plumbing, electrical, HVAC systems. First, the rough-in works was done, then insulation, vapor barrier, drywall was done. So rough in HVAC, rough in for plumbing, rough in for electrical. The cost for all those things was about $30,000, and then the rest of the things with drywall, insulation, vapor barrier, it came up to about $15,000 to $20,000 for those. And final finishes with the kitchen, flooring, paint, baseboards, and trims for the property was another $25,000 to $30,000. All of these, a lot of money can be saved if you do go with the standard stuff instead of going with custom stuff. As soon as you start going towards custom size, a standard door might be $250, but a custom door might be $2,000, right? So it changes a lot on what you prefer and what you like and what would look good with your property. So all these change with that. Jocelyn, the one which you saw recently, that's more of a mid-tier product. It's not the high-end product. It's not the low-end product. It was more of a mid-tier product. What was your opinion on it?
I think that I'm waiting to see what finishes you guys will select. But from what I can see, honestly, the way you've designed it, right? Obviously, we don't have the finishes, but the way it is designed with the space, with the big windows and the ceiling height, that is a good start point. The other things really, can be changed later. So I think that, as you said, it's mid-tier, but I haven't seen the finishes yet. So I think you guys will do a good job.
And that's another thing which we wanna offer to our webinar people is if they do want to actually physically come and see the property, we can schedule something for you to come take a look into it. Again, construction is not our forte. That's not something we do. Jocelyn is a real estate agent. I'm a mortgage broker. We are very much involved in the actual real estate sector, but we can provide options and walk you through if that's something you're interested in. Next, I want to quickly go through, we always run out of time and want to quickly cover some of the questions. Jocelyn, are you okay with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I have my first question right here because I was just making a mental note. And if you saw, I was looking on my phone throughout your presentation. It's because I'm getting questions come in through my phone. So we have questions here, but I had one that I had to ask just while we were talking about this. A lot of my clients have asked me this. Is it okay? Is it possible to get a construction loan for the ADU? What would that financing for the ADU look like?
I'm glad you asked that. In most cases, it's fairly simple. We have a couple of contractors who offer 100% financing for ADUs at the moment. So construction loans are definitely doable on them. You also have the ability to refinance your mortgage to take out equity to do it, as well as add home equity line of credit because it is a variable cost as you proceed with ADU to go with a line of credit option to do it, as well as one of my client, he got an unsecured line of credit set up to do this, and then he plans to refinance his home to pay off the current mortgage as well as the unsecured line of credit. As ADU is going to increase the value of the property substantially.
Absolutely. Now, I'm just going to go through some of the questions that we got, and we have more that we got before. So the first, some of them you've already answered, but I go through them anyway. The first one is, how is parking handled in Hamilton under Bill 23 for additional units?
Okay. As much as I would love to answer that, I don't know a lot about parking in Hamilton. But if you like, I can connect you to one of the designer which we use. They are actually from Hamilton. They have done few of them in Hamilton. From my understanding, to answer this in Guelph, you do need to provide one extra parking space for the ADU. And Bill 23, even though it hasn't fully taken effect because cities are still working on their bylaws. So each bylaw is separate. We are aware that each property would have the ability to have 3 units. But again, each municipality has their own rules and regulations on how it can be done. So we do need to know a bit more about your property and the details before this can be fully answered.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Next one is an ADU possible with a freehold townhouse, or does it have to be a detached?
As of my knowledge, freehold townhouses are not allowed to have ADUs as of right now. There are exceptions to the rule, but you do have to go through the township to confirm that. It really depends on the location as well as which municipality it is in. I am aware there is some municipalities who are allowing that. So again, this would be a great question for a designer, someone who works with the township on day-to-day basis for permits, and they can clarify that for you very quickly.
Yeah, and I'm thinking too, with townhouses, they would rarely have the land or the lot size required for this.
You're right, and it's also the issue of the parking, right? With a lot of time with the townhouses, you have 2 parking spots, maximum, one inside, one outside.
Yeah.
Is there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely. I actually have a client who bought a townhouse with 2 point some million dollars because it's an
Wow.
end unit and it has almost an acre of land with it. So
Wow.
there is ability to develop in future.
Yeah.
This particular property was in Cambridge.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, is there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely there are, but it depends on property per property. And again, we can connect you to one of the designers to answer these questions.
Absolutely. Now, I know you talked about heating and cooling, but
Mhm.
there's a specific question about that. What do you use for heating and cooling in ADUs?
So the ones we have done recently, we have gone with the heat pump. It's one of the newer ways which Ontario is promoting a lot for heating and cooling of the home. So very efficient way. Imagine an AC unit. It works in reverse. So in winter, it heats the home, and in summer it cools the home. It just completely reverses its function to do it.
Yeah.
Again, if you require more information, there is a local company we've been working with in Guelph who has done few of them for us. And overall, it feels like exactly like a normal home. The houses are and again, when you go to apply for the permit, they get you to um, have an efficiency audit, energy audit and efficiency audit submitted. So you have to meet certain criteria in order for the permit to be approved.
Absolutely. Now, what challenges are you facing while obtaining the permit? I guess we talked about this a little earlier, but you can talk about it again.
Well, one of the challenge which we have faced is a lot of people don't know about them. Even for municipalities and cities, these are fairly new. They are just getting into effect as of the summer 2023. So anything which is new generally takes a little bit longer. And anytime in townships, something which does not fit in their box, uh, they have difficulty with it. So we are expecting as the pressure from from the Ontario government is going to come to increase density. We do expect some changes in the bylaws. We do expect zoning laws to be changed in the future. But as of right now, what they're allowing, um, that is allowing a lot of single family detached and semi-detached home to with larger lots to have the ability to put ADUs. In near future, there might be ability to do even with, as I mentioned, townhouses and so on, but we don't know yet.
Okay. Now, do you have to increase the amperage of the electricity line to accommodate the ADU? And I guess a quick question, I guess, to build on this is if you have, let's say you already have 200 amp, are you able to jump to 400 or how do you do that?
So 200 amp is it's a lot. Okay, a lot
Yeah.
of people don't think about it, but if you take a look into most of the homes which were built in 1960s and 70s, they only had 60 amp of service coming in. And then later we increased our capacity to use a lot more electricity for things, and we went to 100 amps. And in the past couple of years, the new trend is 200 amp because that allows you to have electrical cars and so on.
Mhm.
The ones which we have done, we give a 100 amp panel for the existing home and 100 amp panel for the new ADU. So a total capacity of 200 amps is coming in. Depending on how big of a structure you want to create, can you
Yeah.
have 400 amps? Absolutely. But is it needed or is it required?
Yeah.
Probably not at the moment. So again, the ones which we have done, we have provided a connection for electrical car as well as uh, to power the whole 800 some odd square feet.
Yeah.
And 100 amp was much more than sufficient to do it.
Yeah. What size lot do you need in order to do an ADU?
Again, really depends. Corner lots have different requirements. Interior lots have different requirements. If you have a detached structure, it's different requirements. But let's take a very standard lot size and let's work on that, right? So let's say one of the most standard lot size which we work with in Guelph is 50-foot front and 100 feet deep, or 50-foot front to 110 feet deep. That
Yeah.
would easily allow an ADU depending on where your existing home is situated. Um, Again, a lot of lot size we get is 40 by 120 or 40 by 100. that would also allow an ADU unit on it.
Really?
Again, depending on where your existing home is. So this, if someone wants to have one-on-one conversation with me or with Jocelyn, we are happy to bring in one of the planners to introduce you to one of the BCN planners who can assist you with all the walkthrough if your property will fit or not, and give you a feedback right away if it would be feasible or not.
Absolutely. I think you already spoke about this, but I guess you can address again. Do you get a basement in the ADU?
As of right now, Guelph is allowing crawl space in the basement. They're not allowing full basement unit. And again, the fear is that people are gonna have a unit upstairs and a unit in the basement if they allow it. There are municipalities who are allowing full basement as well, but where Guelph is at the moment, specifically speaking, full basement unit is not allowed. You can have a crawl space in the basement for storage.
Yeah. So I have a question here. Somebody's saying, what do you do with the existing tenants? I guess in the main home.
You have to work with them.
Yeah.
Like everything else, you have to work with them.
Yeah.
So one of the properties which we recently did have a tenant. So I gave them discount on their rent, as well as for the time I had to have plumber and electrician come in to do the work. I provided them alternative housing for that period to
Yeah.
facilitate them to do this work. And luckily we had very, very good tenants who were willing to work with us and go through the process. And they were happy because their rent was going down, and we were happy because we have the ability now to generate more income from that property.
Yeah. The next question is, from your perspective, is it cheaper to build one or to get a house that already has an ADU?
It depends. So if your goal is to get a house with an ADU, it's much, much easier. You can just simply buy it, mortgage it, have the property in the backyard, rent it, and generate income from it.
Yeah.
If your goal is to go through a bit of pain and do it yourself, then yeah, by all means go through it. In my mind, if I were to take a look into it, anyone who's going to sell a property with an ADU is going to want some kind of premium for doing all the hard work they have done. So building yourself would be a bit cheaper by all means, and buying a property where there is potential of putting ADU would be cheaper versus one which already has built. And the only stats I can really take out of is the legal basement apartments, right?
That's
Just
true.
you know it very well. If a property has potential of putting basement apartment, it sells for a little bit premium. But if it actually has a legal basement apartment, it sells for $50,000 to $100,000 more, just because people have the ability to generate that income right away.
Yeah. And you're also right, like even on demand, based on demand and supply, there's very few listings that have an ADU. So that means that if they say there's, you know, a group of people who are looking for ADUs, now they have to compete on this one. And in most cases that your cash flow will be eaten up. But if you were to look for a home that would allow for an ADU to be constructed, you probably won't have as much competition because not everyone is thinking that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That being said, Jocelyn is going to be listing one fairly soon. So if you are in the market, please let Jocelyn know.
Absolutely.
She will have one coming with a brand new ADU built in the backyard.
Totally. Yes, that's correct. Now, there's a question here. Do you always construct them as a bungalow or can you do 2 stories?
It's a great question. And quite frankly, I don't know. I believe 2 stories can be, because I've seen some 2 stories ADUs in Kitchener. I haven't seen one in Guelph. I believe you can do it, but I'll get back to you guys on it. I don't know.
But I guess just telling your own story, you've always done bungalow style.
Well, to me, one of the reason which we started off was my mother was visiting, so we wanted to do it where my mother could live in that, and we could live in the main home. So we designed it in a way that she doesn't have to climb stairs and go that way. That being said, each person has different needs to start
That's-
off with.
yeah.
For the rental perspective, the one which we did with the tenants, which I was mentioning earlier, my whole perspective was I wanted this to be done and out with fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And the contractor which I hired, he was very clear that he can do this in this timeline if it is one story. It's a lot easier to construct that. So he recommended that and we went that route.
Absolutely. Now, once you build the ADU, how much land do you dedicate for this unit?
Again, really depends on your lot. Right?
That's true. I guess maybe, I think you said something about 30% as a percentage of the existing lot. I don't know if that, I
So
got it
that's
right.
30%. So imagine if you have a backyard, which is 5,000 square feet, right? So you can build an ADU, which is maximum of 30% of that backyard.
Oh, I see.
So that's the lot, the maximum space you can construct at.
Yeah.
Now, depending on your lot, you can divide it in many ways. The goal is like in most cases, the ADUs are going to have shared facilities with the main mother home,
Yeah.
and so on.
Absolutely. Now, there's a question here that I think you probably need, more details to answer correctly, but I'll pose it to you anyway. And the question is, for 1 million property, how much will be the price appreciation of the house after building the ADU?
I hope $1 million because we are doing a lot of.
Yeah.
No, we don't know yet. The reality is it's such a new concept and it's such a new, I wish I can give you comparable after comparable on it. But again, we can go back to some stats of a legal basement apartment. Generally, when you create a legal basement apartment, your return is $1 to $2. So if you spend $60,000 creating a basement apartment, the value of your home goes up by $120,000. And with major renovations, if you were to upgrade, if you had an old kitchen and you upgraded to a new kitchen, generally that gives you a return of about 50%. So if you spend $50,000 doing it, your house value goes up by $75,000. So based on those statistics, let's say if you were to spend $200,000 creating a nice big size ATU, your house value by default should go up by $400,000. But again, really depends. That's where we need Joseline and we need her expertise to guide us
run
on
some numbers.
to run some numbers.
Absolutely. Now, there's a question here, and it goes like this. The question is, there's two questions actually broken into two pieces. Part one is, how long would it take to build a one-bed ADU? And the second part of it, how much would it rent for? But I guess I should just say a disclaimer. Why would you build I wouldn't build a one-bedroom ADU. I might as well, like if you're going through the whole trouble, you might as well do 2-bedroom, 2-bath because you can rent for hire. That's how I'm thinking, but that's what the question is asking. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. But if you have a property which has a limitation of only doing a 500 square feet, that's ADU, true, right? Yeah. Then you're gonna build a 1-bedroom. My thought process is your rent would be on the par what a 2-bedroom apartment will rent for. In fact, you have a much better, more superior product than a 2-bedroom unit. And if we were to take current rents of co-op for 2-bedroom apartment, generally rents somewhere between $1,800 to $2,200-$2,300. So about $2,000 a month. Yeah. A 1-bedroom goes from $1,500 to $1,800 a month. Again, depends on everything. The one which I have done recently, which was just over 700 square feet, one of my friend actually ended up renting that for about $3,000 a month. But it is a really nice unit. Like the quality, everything was there. So yeah, again, I wish there could be a concrete answer, but it depends. It depends. Yeah, it depends. Have you helped any of your clients build an ADU? Yes, I have. Few of them actually. Absolutely. And
from all sides of it. Where they needed help with constructions, we were able to give them contractors to do it. Where they needed help with the BCNI planner, we were able to provide them those. With financing, whatever you need assistance with, we are here to assist. Now, we do get people who are like, hey, we want to build an ADU, but we have no money and we want everything to be done by someone else, and we want no mess in our backyard, and we want a pink pony with this. uh, that's just not possible. Like I got a call today from a client of mine. He had a very minimal paying job with no down payment, and he wanted to buy a home where he could build an ADU. And my simple answer was, I'm sorry, you cannot buy a home, leave alone putting an ADU in it, right?
Yeah, that's
So
true.
your circumstances really depends. We are here to assist you. Again, I'm not a contractor. I cannot actually go and physically do the construction, but I
Yeah,
can recommend you people who are expert in this field. And
yeah,
they've been doing this for years and they can assist you with it.
absolutely. There's another question here that's talking about ready-built ADUs.
Yeah. There is a lot of companies who are starting to do that. And they are great, to be honest with you. That being said, my preference has always been go away from conventional thinking. And the reason behind why I'm not pursuing that is a lot of them are focused in only Toronto and in GTA. When it comes to Guelph, Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge, if I were to give one specific company who's doing it as of right now, I haven't found one. If anyone knows of one, please let me know. Love to connect, recommend them to other people. It is very, very new. So as of right now, there is not a lot of established builders who are doing this. There are general contractors who are taking on projects to do it. So please do your due diligence and make sure you hire someone who knows what they're doing. In terms of ready-made build. Please check with the township if they will allow it and what the requirements are and so on before you could undertake it.
Yeah, absolutely. If I start the process to build an ADU today, can I move in 3 months?
Yes. But be prepared to do a lot of work in 3 months.
That's true.
And be prepared and pray that we have good weather for the next 3 months. From my experience, our number one delay in building ADU was weather. Because when we scheduled to do things, it started to rain heavily and we were not able to do it. So weather plays a big role depending on, again, how big of a company you hire and how quickly you want to get it done. But weather did, like if I were to take a look into the last 2-3 projects we have done, weather was the number one delay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we've gone through all the questions. If anyone, we still have 2 minutes. So if anyone has any more questions, please put them in the chat box. But otherwise, we've gone through all the questions. And I've learned so much that I didn't even know, so I'm really thankful that you were here today. I'm going to give you one more second. If there's no other question, that means there's a question here. Do you only help clients in Guelph or do you go to GTA as well?
No, I'm sorry. We don't have the resources at the moment to go to GTA, maybe in future. I'm happy to help you with financing. I'm happy to help you with the basic things. But when it comes to construction in GTA, it's most of the contractors we work with in Guelph, they would not go to GTA to work. They're busy enough doing work here that they won't have the capacity to do it. But in terms of financing them, letting you know, connecting you with a planner and so on, that we can definitely assist you with.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that brings us to 7:58, which is pretty close to 8. So I'm just going to use the last minute, just, saying thank you very much for being here, educating us. I really love learning and, just hearing more about the things that you're doing. And I'd also like to thank all the participants here who are here today. Thank you for taking the time to be here. Again, if you have any questions or you'd like to connect with Farhaan, please let me know and we'll facilitate that. If you have any further questions after this, you could always reach out to us. We're always happy to help. As I was saying, this webinar is being recorded. The recording will be made available. And if you have questions again, you can always follow up with us and we'll be happy to help. Farhaan, thank you so much for being here. I think we'll have you again because this is a topic that I hear about all the time. And it's a topic because it's so new, it's a topic that people don't know about. So I'm really grateful that you're here and we'll continue to learn from you for years to come.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for giving me the opportunity. And
Yeah.
when we actually post this webinar, we're gonna post the pictures of few of the projects we have done. So
Yes.
you kind of get an idea. Also, if you do wanna see one of the units in person, again, please reach out to Jocelyn or me.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to schedule something for you, walk you through a unit. And this way you get a better idea on what it's gonna look like and what the finishing product will come out to. And
Absolutely.
I do want to thank you, Jocelyn, for giving me this opportunity. It's always a pleasure doing webinars with you. It lets me step out of my normal number crunching, day and do something different, which I love. So thanks
Absolutely.
again for giving me this opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you for your time. Exactly at 8 o'clock. So I will just say thanks again for being here and have a lovely evening. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye, everyone.
Take care.